All right, everyone. We start off today, link in the description, archived, of course, with a very, very funny thing here. The liberal upper class is not too happy with Donald Trump. And there's one really glaring reason, and it's at the bottom of this article, by the way, you should read it. Most of the article is basically like, well, Trump is breaking all the toys. He's firing people. Oh my God. He fired this individual, Ben Ari, actually, who had been working supposedly on the Comey case. It turns out that that wasn't directly true. And so, naturally, the legacy media pounces and says, look, it's a wrongful firing, as though there was no other potential reason why the firing actually occurred. Completely ignores that. That's a lie by omission because the reason wasn't straight out given. It coincides with, of course, libs of TikTok and others talking about this particular issue, about this individual's, again, supposed connections to Comey. The timing, in theory, could be coincidental. And of course, this is somebody who Trump does have the right to fire, although an activist judge will probably say that it's unconstitutional for one reason or another to fire people that are directly under your purview. No, 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 you have to, this is a perpetual employee. You're not allowed to ever fire them. Oh, they raped a pig on national TV? Well, sorry, but you're not allowed to fire them. You don't have the authority. Currently, the president no longer leads the executive branch. The judiciary tells us this on a regular basis. But in this case, though, the most interesting part of the article, and this happens commonly, is right at the bottom, where they're lamenting the concept that Donald Trump appears to be taking advice from Trump-linked accounts on places like Twitter. I frame it in a different way. For the first time, we have an actively engaged President of the United States listening to their constituents and not simply listening to a bunch of bureaucrats, upper brass, and advisors. This is democracy manifest, actually. This is the public participation level within politics is considerably more vast now than it was in times past. That's because you have instantaneous transfer of information. You have an impetus towards group participation because of online discourse and debate, which they're most desperate to try to quash, and they're doing that for a reason. They aren't doing it to defend you against disinfo. That's bullshit. They're not doing it to prevent enemy propaganda. That's bullshit. They're not doing it to prevent people from being scammed or anything like that because the government can't help you with those sorts of things, and neither, by the way, can the tech firms. What we see, though, is that the white shoe class is really upset over the idea that regular individuals who simply have garnered a large audience, often through their own talent, are capable of influencing the political system. Well, they're not supposed to be doing that. They're peasants. They're not supposed to be weighing in on these things. Trump certainly is. It's a breach of decorum to listen to the little people. That's basically what that last paragraph entails. Well, audience participation. No, the president shouldn't listen to the will of the masses. The constituents that voted for him, and in some cases, people that didn't even vote for him at all. He's trying to represent them. That's sort of his job description to be the president of the United States. You kind of have to give a shit about the people. Well, apparently you don't. You just look at Biden or Bush and some of these other people. For a long time, we've had very lowered expectations. And so we expect the president to be like aloof, like sort of semi-separate. There's almost this weird romanticized mythology behind the president where you think of the president being troubled over the war and he's slowly walking and looking at the portraits of past presidents and praying to them for guidance. How am I going to help my people? It looks like a dark hour for this nation, very solemn and astute and so forth. And then, meets with, former president, God, George, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Can you help me? And stuff like that. It's not the way that it works. That's romanticist bullshit. These people do not operate in that manner. Trump arguably has more decorum than the last few presidents, at least going back till pre-dementia Ronald Reagan. Most of the others have been a bunch of cutthroats and just people pleasers. And it's basically like, here's some welfare. Now leave me alone about this other much more pressing issue. That's what we've had. And you've had very little in the way of an attempt to reach out to the public and get any of their ideas. The closest thing you get in more recent times would be Obama schmoozing it up, and occasionally making social media posts. He was effectively the first social media president. Just like W was technically the first World Wide Web president. Or was it Clinton? No, it was Clinton, technically, in that particular era. And now we have a president who's more fully engaged. is actually listening to people who don't have 5 law degrees, who don't have billions of dollars, who aren't, entrenched within the system as it is because Trump seems not to like the system. Fucking wonder why, by the way. Could it be all the times they tried to put him in prison and take all of his money and properties away? That might have something to do with it. I think he has a legit axe to grind at this point, and I'm McLovin' it. They have a president who actually listens. And I know that Trump himself does not go habitually on Twitter and just read shit posts. I'm well aware of this fact. You should be well aware of it too. Although I do think that he does enjoy sometimes carving out his own shit posts. It's just a habit that he's had since long before he was president of the United States, and so he seems to enjoy it, generally speaking. Most of it, though, is staffers, and they'll dig up material, videos, tweets, news stories, and stuff, and then they compile it and I say, like, Mr. President, I want to respond to this. Now, here's a tip from somebody who does investigative journalism, like real journalism, like what, NBC and the Wall Street Journal used to do, back in the 70s, and then try to give advice on how to respond. Now, Trump has a quick wit, so some of those responses, I guarantee, are his own words, probably many of them. Some of them have been pre-crafted as well. But it makes sense for a president to actually at least topically listen to the concerns of people that actually voted for him. That makes sense. They're acting as though this is some sort of terrible thing. Oh my God, they're clutching their pearls. Oh my God, right-wing influencers actually have the presidency here once in a while. What will we do? I'm going to have to sell my fifth home in order to pay the differential for when my job gets axed by my major network because I can't compete with a bunch of YouTubers and TikTok shores. I see this as a good thing. There's nothing wrong with this. It's a democratized approach to communication and to opinion giving, and it appears to have trickled up into the executive branch especially, and there are also a bunch of members of Congress who have gotten the memo and they interact with people. They actually interact with their constituents. Those that don't are being left behind. You may have noticed this, by the way. The laundry list of people within the administration and without the administration, both in Congress and elsewhere, that are more interactive with people, they're the ones that are more popular, that are doing better, generally speaking, unless they're like, Mitt Romney putting his foot in his mouth every other day because he's Pierre Delecto. But he never showed great judgment anyway. I'd find it funny also, the Republicans really should trot out the Romney Care moniker for Obamacare in their fight over the shutdown and the stipends given to illegals for free medical care that most American citizens will never qualify for. That would probably be good. Yeah, it'd probably be a good strategy. Hey, that ACA you're seeking to retain, it's basically, you do realize it was adapted off of Romney Care. This is a big thing back in the back in the 2008 election. It's pretty funny at the time. Some of you probably don't even remember that. Good times. That's about all. Peace out.